All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 15th of October, Game 3 of the 2024-25 season. Tonight, road trip continues as the Flyers stay in the province of Alberta, and they will take on Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, won the Western Conference last year, took the Florida Panthers to 7 in the final, ultimately going down in the final. And they are off to a slow start this year. Flyers Daily is always presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. I talk quite a bit about it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Well, this tonight, I believe, is a bit of a combo platter about who you're playing and when you're playing them. Clearly, a very good team with probably the most skill in the entire league when you look at guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and others. There's a reason why they got to the final last year. There's a reason why they overcame a hideous start last year and took it all the way to a Game 7 in the final, because they got a lot of talent. There is a bit of a cup hangover, in particular for the team that doesn't win, and we're seeing it with the Edmonton Oilers. They've played 3 games so far. They got shut out in their first game 6-0. Connor McDavid didn't have a shot in that game, by the way. In the second game, that was to Winnipeg, that they got shut out 6-0. In their second game, they lose to the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that is not supposed to be very good. In both of those games, all 3 of their games, losses actually, are on home ice. So they lose to the Blackhawks 5-2. So they've given up 11 goals in their first 2 games, and they've only scored 2. Again, none by McDavid. And then on Sunday, they had the back-to-back. So did Calgary, though. Flyers played Calgary Saturday night. Calgary went to Edmonton and won in Edmonton on Sunday 4-1. So Edmonton now sitting at 0-3, heading into the final game of a season-opening 4-game homestand, and they welcome the Flyers tonight at 10 p.m. This obviously is one of those spots where Edmonton's going to throw everything they have at you. But to me, that's a team that can be frustrated really quickly on home ice as well. So the Flyers are going to have to do something that doesn't happen very often. 4 straight games without Connor McDavid just absolutely taking over the game. He's got 2 assists so far this season, but no goals. Flyers got to prevent the explosion or the eruption from happening tonight. And I think it's going to take some lineup changes to do it. I think Noah Cates will be in the lineup. Why? Noah Cates 2 years ago and last year did a very good job against Connor McDavid. You recall in a game last year in Philadelphia, the Flyers won the game 2-1 in the shootout, and McDavid didn't even have a shot on goal. That was only the second time all season last season that he went shotless in a game. And I think out of 23 or 24 shifts for McDavid, I think that Cates was on the ice for 21 of them. So Cates stays in the lineup, I should say, and Cates moves to the center position because I want to match him up against Connor McDavid. Chetlichenko's going back in, so who comes out? Well, Bill and I talked about this in yesterday's episode. To me, the logical choice was Ryan Poehling. I don't think Poehling's off to a great start. I didn't love his preseason. He's a center. And I think he comes out of the lineup to make way for Noah Cates. So Lichenko is sort of a third-line, second, third-line, fourth-line center. I think that Cates is kind of a third-line, fourth-line center. And how these things break out through the game will remain to be seen. But to me, the guy that comes out is Poehling. Now, Joel Farabee didn't practice yesterday. It was a maintenance day. Farabee, I think, has been off to a really good start. I think he'll play tonight. So I don't think that will be an issue. Some said, and I got into a conversation on Twitter, a back and forth, that Scott Laughton should come out for Chetlichenko. But that doesn't make any sense because Laughton's a winger. He's playing wing now. I'm not moving Lichenko in to play wing, and I'm keeping Cates in there. So I have too many centers. I have to pull a center out. Not to mention, I know that Poehling kills penalties, as does Laughton, but Laughton's the better penalty killer. And when I'm facing a team like the Edmonton Oilers, and I know they've only scored 3 goals total this season, but I know what they can throw out there on the power play. I'm concerned about that. I'm not taking what I think is the best penalty killer and putting him in the press box in Scott Laughton. There's no way. I'm not doing that. So I have to be aware of all of these elements. Plus, I don't think Laughton's gotten off to a bad start. I think that Laughton, while he's not playing great and off to a great start, and we're going to get into some players, some analysis through 2 games, I think he has been better than Ryan Poehling has been so far. And the fact that Poehling's a center, he comes out when Lutsenko comes back in. Look, you'll need Lutsenko's speed when you're playing Edmonton as well. That'll help. It'll help power play number 2. Torts talked about that in his availability yesterday. Not having Lutsenko in game 2 probably hurt power play number 2 a little bit in that game against Calgary. So, pulling Poehling out, as Bill and I suggested yesterday, I think is the right move for the lineup. Now, is Emil Andre going to be in the lineup? Now, subbing Andre out or putting Andre in, who do you take out? I think Zamula's going to come out. Does Eric Johnson stay in? Or does Andre draw into the lineup? Maybe this isn't the matchup for Andre to draw in. One, because he's not a penalty killer, and Johnson is. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out on the defensive side of the equation. But I imagine Andre, he's got to get at least one game. It doesn't make sense to call him up from the Lehigh Valley Phantoms to have him just go out to Western Canada and then Seattle and practice with the team. He needs to play. If the plan was to call someone up and have them just be there as a reserve body, you could have called up Louis Belpedio or Adam Ginning to do that. So I imagine the plan is to get him into at least one game. We'll see what game that is. Torts also talked about in his media availability yesterday about moving Matvei Mishkov back to the right side. That's where he's more comfortable as a winger. Now, that's actually not his off wing, or that is his off wing, rather. When he plays the left side, he's a left-hand shot. He plays the right side on his off wing and is more comfortable there. And Torts also mentioned that creates a bit of an issue for him to play with Travis Konechny. And again, I saw people talking about this on social media, just a talking point. Well, why doesn't Konechny just move to the other side? Well, then Konechny's going to his off wing, is not comfortable in his off wing. Mishkov is on the right side. And Konechny dealing with pressure coming down the wall is not advantageous to him. Mishkov is comfortable doing that. That's fine, and has done it a lot. I don't think you move Konechny over to an off wing. I think the candidates that you move to an off wing are Owen Tippett and Tyson Forster, which they've done with each of them. So I don't think you just move TK there. Maybe Mishkov and Konechny just aren't going to play together, but except for on the power play. And that's fine too. That's absolutely fine. One other thing I saw on social media was to move Owen Tippett. I saw Bill Meltzer was commenting on this after a guy said they should move Owen Tippett to center. Look, I think there's a notion sometimes that some people believe that your best forwards or your most skilled or your best scorers need to be centers. They don't. They don't need to be centers. I don't think Owen Tippett is built to be a center. Not from a body type or a skating standpoint, but from a way he attacks the zone standpoint. I think he's an outside-in player, not an inside-out player. Some players are better attacking through the middle of the ice. I think Owen Tippett's better attacking on the wings and on the flank than he would be through the middle of the ice. That's my opinion on it. And I don't want to bog him down with the defensive responsibilities. He's not off to a great start. He's been incredibly physical, but he's not off to a flying start and creating great chances. I'd like to see more of that. I think that Owen Tippett doesn't know how good he is. I think he still doesn't know. And I think that he has to have that come to Jesus with himself to realize he's really good and that he can control a game at times. I still don't think he knows that. That's just based on what I've seen him watching him play. One last thing that Tort said, we're going to get to some comments that were on our yesterday's episode in the comments section on YouTube, and then get to some assessments of players through 2 games. But one other thing Torts talked about, he said he loved the way the team played against Calgary and how they generated zone time, but he didn't love the they generated a ton of shots. They had 40 shots on goal, but they just didn't get to the inside. And that's what this team has to figure out, is how to attack the inside of the ice in the offensive zone when it's not off the rush. You can start outside, but you got to find a way to move the puck inside to those higher danger scoring areas, either top of the slot, back door, east-west cross-ice passes, below the tops of the circles, those kind of things. And with traffic for rebounds, traffic for tips, traffic to make it difficult on the goaltender. That's what they need to do. Again, it's not about quantity with shots. Who gives a damn that they scored 40 shots if they only had 5 grade A scoring chances? I'd rather have 25 shots with 8 grade A scoring chances. They need to up the level. I talked about shooting percentage last Friday. Their shooting percentage needs to be 10% or higher as a team. They're not there yet. They got to find a way to do that. How do you do that? Getting the puck to the higher danger scoring areas, getting it into the middle of the ice, off the forecheck, and off just regular zone time, not off the rush, putting traffic around the goalie, tips, rebounds, and taking their vision away. That's what you got to do. You're not going to up your shooting percentage with clear-sighted shots from the outside. NHL goalies will eat that up. So they have to find a way to infiltrate the house, infiltrate the middle of the ice. We'll see if they can do that. All right, a couple of comments that came in on yesterday's episode with Bill. Paul McLaughlin, 4132, messaged in and said, quick 2-part question concerning the scheduling. How often does the league get together with the teams to discuss scheduling prior to the upcoming season? Also, how often does the league's schedulers meet with others to discuss the team's concerns among themselves? Thanks, Jason and Bill. Great segment and love the show. Thank you for the note, Paul. This was in regards to discussing a team playing a back-to-back when the opponent is not on a back-to-back. You know, that advantage of a team laying in wait while another team is getting in late the night before. And you can try and do it and minimize it. I think they could minimize it more to kind of level that playing field. It's obviously difficult when you're talking about scheduling 32 teams and 82 games each and building availabilities. A lot of buildings like Wells Fargo Center are shared with another winter sports team. So it's not as simple as it sounds. But I think the team puts in for certain dates that they want to be at home. And I think there is a conversation there. And I think there's probably somewhere you guys are really kind of screwing us here with this situation. So I think there's a dialogue there, but I think there's only so much the league can do as well. Fancy Friends said something I was worried about was Tippett. He's kind of been invisible. Maybe it was because there's so many penalties I didn't notice him at all. Tippett's not a penalty killer. Torts did mention his availability. They might want to work him into that. If they could work him into a good penalty killer, he'd be a good guy for the power kill too, to get up the ice, read it right, and use those legs to get up the ice. There has been way too much shorthanded play, and that will affect, players like Tippett that don't play on the PK. Penalties, they just screw up the flow of a bench. They screw up the flow of being able to roll lines. And sometimes it's hard for players to get into a game when they get 2 normal shifts in a row, then all of a sudden you got to kill 4 minutes, 2 penalties over the next 9 minutes. It messes up the flow. It makes them, it adds a disconnect to the game. In response to that, somebody said, our captain, Coots, has been non-existent for both games so far. I didn't see a hard hit. He's not a big hitter, so don't go looking for big hits when it comes to Coots. He said, I definitely didn't see any scoring chances. He still has his back-checking defensiveness to him, but that's about it. Disappointing. I don't think Couturier has been bad at all. Matter of fact, I think he made a really good play on the Farabee goal after the pass to Brink. Did you see the little stick lift he had? That's a tremendous play. And again, with this team, and they've gotten faster going into this season, that is going to make him look slower. He's never been fast. He can be effective without being fast. Sometimes you see it and you go, oh man, he is not nearly as fast as these guys. But he doesn't depend on his speed. He depends on his hockey IQ, reading the play, knowing where to go, those things. So he's never going to look dynamic. Sometimes players that look dynamic get more of a benefit of a doubt than those that don't, yet the ones that don't look dynamic are way more effective than the ones that look dynamic, if that makes sense. Let's get to one more in regards to that episode. Somebody was a little mad about Forster sticking up for Drysdale because it put him on the PK. I don't think Forster was planning on getting, a 5, 2, and 10, which was the case. But yeah, you do have to pick your spots. That you do those things because you don't want to put your team at a disadvantage. But the last one comes from Robert Fried. He said, obviously it was not a good game for Fedotov, but he was hung out to dry a lot. First goal was a fluke, totally. The next 2 goals, they had 3 defensemen, or he said first goal was a fluke, 2 goals when we had 3 defensemen that 2-on-1 where York did the worst possible defense, where York didn't take away the pass. He said, I know at some point you need your goalie to make a big save, but he shouldn't be judged that way. It was a bit crazy. Look, I don't think the performance was alarming because, again, the first goal was bad. The 2-on-1 goal that he gave up when York didn't take away the pass is a very tough one as well. There's a 5-on-3 goal in there also. So it's not an alarming performance, but what I will say is this. And I got in this guy, Andy, that I go back and forth with on Twitter, tweeted me a bunch of things. He's barely an AHL goalie. Look, we have to see more. He is never going to look smooth. He is always going to look more rigid. He is 6'7". He is not going to move like a 6'2" Sam Ersson or Carter Hart prior to that here. He's not going to be one of those guys. He's always going to look a bit clumsier. It doesn't mean that he can't play in the league. Ben Bishop always looked more clumsy to me because he was 6'7". You see 6'2" guys or a 6-foot guy like Kolosov, and they move around like a cat, a hovercraft. And then the assumption is that that's a better goaltender because of the way that it looks when they move. It's not necessarily the case. Fedotov has to figure some things out. He has to figure out the right depths to be at in the right situations. He has to read plays. I think he's behind on reading plays right now. I think he's playing mental catch-up a lot of times. He's got to find a way to play from ahead mentally in reading the threats on the ice. And one game into this season, 1 start last year, so 2 starts in his career and 2 relief performances. I am not going to make up my mind on him yet. To make up your mind already on him is silly. Just because he was here over the summer doesn't mean he knows all the intricacies of the NHL game. He wasn't playing NHL games over the summer. That takes playing to figure those things out. Is he going to figure them out? I don't know. I have questions like everybody else. I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and go crazy after 1 game this season, 1 start last year, and 2 relief performances. We need to see more. I know it's hard to ask for patience in sports, and it's hard to ask for patience when it comes to Flyers, and when it comes to Flyers goaltending. Totally get it. But you need to be a little patient here. We need to get more data before we can make a real assessment. We just don't know yet. Couple other guys that I wanted to throw assessments out through 2 games. Travis Sanheim. I think Sanheim's been an absolute monster in the first 2 games. Maybe, in some ways, their best player. He is just eating up a ton of ice again. 23 minutes and 11 seconds. He leads the team. Second is Cam York at 22:43. Mind you, none of that ice time for Travis Sanheim's coming on the power play. It's all even strength or PK and 3-on-3. He had 2 minutes shift in the 3-on-3 overtime on Friday to close it out. He is gutting it out. To me, he's been the best defenseman at killing plays and zone exits. I think some other guys have some work to do there. I think he's been really good to start this year. And he's kind of evolving into one of those defensemen that when you don't say his name much, it means he's doing his job. Not a power play defenseman, so maybe one of those guys. I think he's been really good. I went back and watched a lot of the game on Friday, the Vancouver game, and I watched 2/3, the first 2 periods of the Calgary game yesterday, and I thought by far he's been the Flyers' best defender. I think Farabee has looked very good so far. Joe Farabee is going to be around the net. His finishing hasn't been totally dialed in other than the goal he had against Calgary. That'll come, I think, through the season. So we'll see where that goes. I think Travis Konechny's been really good as well. You know, has the 2-goal game, obviously, against Calgary. Power play goal, shorthanded goal. 2 goals on the season here in the early going. We'll see if he can keep that consistency that he's often showed in his career, where he doesn't go 2 games in a row without ending up on the score sheet. But it's a big one tonight. It's a big one in Edmonton tonight. It's a huge one for Edmonton. They're 0-3. Flyers looking to go 2-1 here on the road trip. We'll see if they can do that tonight. Then they'll wrap up the road trip Thursday in Seattle. So we'll break down Flyers Oilers coming up tomorrow. Join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.